Do you ever have trouble coming up with an idea? Do you say to yourself, oh man, I just don't know what to draw today? Well, today we're going to be doing a creativity exercise to flex our creative muscles and practice coming up with an idea. And we can actually use this strategy anytime we're struggling for an idea, and it'll help us come up with something. And the way it works is we are going to create a squiggly line, completely random. And that squiggly line is going to be part of the place that we're drawing today. It might be the horizon line. It may be an object in the foreground, middle ground, or background. But whatever the squiggly line is, we're going to turn it into a picture of a place. To do that, we're going to need a piece of paper and a pencil, and you probably want to get some colors to color your landscape when you're finished. Go ahead and grab the supplies, come back, and let's get started. Step 1, make our squiggly line. Now, even though this squiggly line is supposed to be random, there's still a couple of guidelines. Number 1, that's too small. We want the squiggle to affect the whole paper because we want it to help us think about what to do with the whole paper. And if there's no squiggle out here, then we're in the same predicament as before. We have to figure out what to come up with to put out here without any inspiration. So too small. On the other extreme, that's too much. It's too big, it's too confusing. There are too many little pieces in there. So we have to do something in between, which means it's got to be big enough that our drawing is going to be the size of the paper, but it can't be so confusing that we don't have room to put our own details in it. So normally what I do is I give myself 3 seconds and I try to put that squiggle in as quickly as I can. I don't plan it out. It's supposed to be a surprise. That's part of the challenge. So one thing that you should know is that your squiggle shouldn't look like mine. We're both making our own random, unexpected squiggly line, and we're gonna build from that. So here we go. Ready? 3, 2, 1, go. Or stop. All right, so there's my squiggly line. The next thing I have to do is I have to look at it from different angles to see which way I want to make my picture. And remember, we're drawing a place. So this is going to make you think of a different place, and this way is going to make you think of something else. Let's see. I think I'm going with this way. So now my job is to turn this picture into a place. And these squiggly lines are going to be part of that landscape. Could be plants, could be rock formations, could be even little animals in the landscape. But remember, the squiggly line should be the landscape. So now I'm going to start adding details and we'll see what appears from this squiggly line. Now my landscape is sketched in. You can see I changed my mind again about which direction it was going to be. And I also had to take some clues from the squiggly line. So for example, you can see my clouds. Since I had these big loops here, I just decided, well, that's the shape my clouds are going to be in this picture. You know, there are lots of things that are up to the artist. So even though these aren't fluffy, bumpy clouds, I feel like once I put a few of them in here, and then when you see them colored in, you'll be able to tell those are clouds. And then I had this point here that I decided was a mountain. So I take that clue and I add a few more mountains, and that gives this pointy thing something to relate to. And then I turn these curves here into the water that's flowing down. So we have a waterfall right here, and we have another waterfall that kind of turns into a lake right there. And then I just added lots of different things. Trees, a little cabin, some rocks, lots of waves and ripples in the water, more trees way back in the background, so they're small. I have like a little lookout tower right here. So my goal was just to add a bunch of things, and remember that the things in the front are bigger because they're in the foreground. Things that are really far away are smaller because they're in the background. And now I'm going to outline everything and color everything in. Now the last step, which is to color it in. And since I have a pretty normal looking landscape, it looks like it's on Earth, and I can imagine the sky being blue and the grass being green and everything being a normal color. Because it's so normal looking, I'm gonna try to use the colors to make it a little bit more unique. I could have went a different route and created some strange, imaginary fantasy landscape, and you can do that with yours too. It could have been, you know, a scary landscape, or it could have been some strange planet that no one's ever been to before. But since mine looks relatively normal, I'm gonna go ahead and make sure I use some interesting colors in there to make it stand out and make it a little bit more unique. So here's the finished landscape. You can see I used not completely crazy colors, but I did try to use colors that aren't typically what you see in a landscape, but they do go together pretty well. So I kept the water bluish. The grass is yellowish, which it can be. The trees are kind of orange and brown, which is something that trees can look like. So I didn't use absolutely crazy colors, but I used colors that are not as typical. And then one thing I did, which I think really helped a lot, was afterward, I added shadows. So you can see I decided that the shadows are on the right side of everything. So on the right sides of the mountains, there are the shadows. On the right sides of the trees, there are the shadows. On the right of the tree on the grass, that's where the shadow from the tree is. And then I put the light side with white on the left side. So on the left of everything is a white highlight. And I think that made everything look a lot more realistic and made it pop out and look a lot more three-dimensional as well. So I hope you like turning a squiggly line into a landscape. This is a strategy you can use whenever you're having trouble coming up with an idea. So we also have a video about turning a squiggle into a creature, and one about turning a squiggly line into some objects. You might want to check those out as well. I hope you enjoyed this strategy and you can use it in the future, and I will see you guys next time.